going along the same track of what we were just talking about, like things that you do after school, I think one of the funnest things that I did was actually connect with the other students in my class. Like I would, you know, get with a group of guys and there'd be, you know, Chinese, Korean, Malaysian, Cambodian, like just other students from around the world, and just talking with them and being able to communicate, and everybody's talking in the same language, but we're all speaking at the same level too, because we're all in the same class. And so it actually made speaking with them easier because everyone's going through the same struggles. We're all learning, we're all at the same level. And so, and just hang out with them and interpreting what they're saying in Japanese is like, it's really good study. It's like you're trying to understand what they're saying, you know, while at the same time realizing that they're making mistakes and you're making mistakes. And so that was really great, not just from, obviously from the study standpoint, but just making friends, connecting with other people in the class. So that was really exciting, really fun.
I will jump off that. I think that it was definitely crucial to kind of expand your horizons and make sure that you're not just hanging out with the American kids in the program, because it's really easy after you're done with your classes to say, oh, I'm just going to go hang out with the rest of the people who are either the Americans in my dorm or the Americans in the program and go to izakayas together.
I'm going to go back to my comfort zone and speak only English.
Right, exactly. So it's huge, and you get to have those kind of lifelong friendships with people all over the world. So I know that my class was predominantly Chinese, which was a little bit different, that we only had, I think I was the only American, and then there were 2 Korean students, but everyone else was Chinese. And it's awesome to know that if I ever go to China, that I
have connections there. People waiting to take you in.
Exactly.
I have a really set goal in mind. I really want to pass the JLPT N1. So that's my goal. And so my expectations for KCP is that they will help me bring me to this goal. I feel that the knowledge that is presented at KCP is well sufficient to help me get there. I mean, the teachers are amazing. I think the curriculum is really great. I think it will really help me build to this. And not only do I just want to pass the N1, that's only one part. I want to be able to speak more natural, more, just be willing to really have the person that I'm talking to understand what I'm saying. So not just a basic level of knowledge, but really just a thorough understanding of the language. And then obviously from there to be able to find some sort of good paying job that goes with that, because I want to eventually work in Japan. And so my expectations for KCP is that they'll help me reach those goals.
So you guys, a lot of you were talking about you want to get out of your shells, and I think the first 2 weeks are kind of challenging, especially if that's what your goal is. But the end result is you'll definitely, towards the end, like, wow, I actually made not a life, but I had my own lifestyle here, and I was able to figure it out in a different country, not in my native language, and it really gives you a huge boost of confidence. And especially like in Japan, I was pretty confident in myself, but then once you come back to the States and everything's in your native language, you still have that extreme amount of confidence in yourself, and it really helps you grow as a person. At least for me, at least.
If your goal is to be independent and to grow as a person, then you have to push yourself. And I think that that's not necessarily built into the program, and that's something that you have to kind of decide for yourself and really commit to. Because I know some of the people that I went to the program with did kind of decide to stay in their dorm and Skype with their friends back home and study, and which is absolutely crucial. You have to study. There's a lot of homework. Yeah. There's no question about that. But if your goal is to grow as a person, I think it's really important that you remember that and you push yourself to go out and talk to people, and don't be afraid to ask, the attendant at the train station a question, or to ask, just to interact with native Japanese speakers. I think it's just so helpful, and you have to remind yourself of that because it's scary. You're in a foreign country and it's intimidating, and you may not know exactly how to form that question perfectly, but just go do it and you'll figure it out, and you'll learn how to do it, and you'll grow.
That's what helps you break you out of your shell. It's that interaction. It's that trying to figure out how to speak to the person, because right now you can stay inside your comfort zone in your own country in your own language, but this brings you a catalyst to help you break out. And so I mean, you really have to go for it. Like you said, you really have to try. You gotta really go for it, but at the same time it really does help open you up to it. I would say that more than anything else, it helps you get an outside perspective on your culture. Because when you're in America, and you've always been in America, you're growing up in America, it doesn't feel like a culture, it just feels like life, like normal, this is how people are. And then when you go to another country, it's like looking at everything you've always known from outside the box. You're like, you feel like you're up on the moon staring down at the earth and you're like, that's what we do? And I think it really helps me to understand like how we act versus how people in Japan act. Like there's certain nuances that are different. You wouldn't even realize it until you go outside. And it's very interesting to see how different the people are in the other country. I'm trying to think of a quick example, but even just something as normal as like talking to people on the street in America. You're like, hey, hi, how's it going? You talk to people. People don't really do that in Japan unless you really jump out and grab them. And that's just something that I thought was normal, you know? And the first time I almost got ran over by a bicycle, someone coming behind me didn't say anything. I was like, hey, what's going on? Like usually a person would, be like, on the left, excuse me, and they'd go around you. But in Japan, it's like they'll just hit you before they say anything to you. And then you're like, what's going on? But that's just one small little thing. There were many other different inferences when I was like, oh wow, this is totally different. And I think it really helped me understand much more about just what it means to be.
It was really interesting just being that foreigner that we don't often get a chance to be. And so just being that complete foreigner and surrounded by people who are not necessarily as diverse as we are in the States. That we're used to such a diverse culture with people from so many different backgrounds, and whether that's socioeconomic or ethnic or whatever the case may be. But being that really obvious foreigner in Japan was a really interesting experience. And I think that helped me just kind of appreciate how foreigners feel when they're in the States. And I'm going to become a teacher of English language learners, so it really helped me figure out what my students are going to be experiencing when they're here and they're thrust into this American culture and they feel foreign and they don't feel like they're being accepted and understood. But you can always find a way to reach out and get attached to the culture. So.
I guess one thing that you definitely experienced was well to realize America is not the best at everything. And in fact, it kind of sucks at doing some things in comparison. Like, public transportation is amazing in Japan. And then I come back here and people are like, oh yeah, but you have buses, like, you're so convenient. So, so just like realizing that there are other ways to do it that are possibly better than the American way. This is a very good realization that makes you more open to finding what the better way is.
I printed a bunch of pictures before I went, and I kind of covered parts of the walls in my dorm room with the pictures, which was really helpful. When you're feeling homesick and the time changes off, so you can't call, and just to kind of have those photos to be like, okay, there's people who are there supporting me, and kind of having that memory is really helpful. And it brightens up your dorm room, which is always good.
This might kind of sound silly, but there was one time when I was feeling pretty homesick, and I was like, I just went to McDonald's. Because I was like, oh, America. So I just went and sat at McDonald's, had a couple of cheeseburgers, and I felt so much better.
Tanaka and Utami are kind of the people who are in charge of the Americans when they're there, and they were spectacular. They're really approachable, they're so friendly, and you can tell that they really care about you and your experience, that they are genuinely interested in how you're doing and they want you to have a really amazing time. And they are Japanese, so they're very proud of their culture and what they're able to give you and kind of bring you into. So And they're also wonderful. Like I had family come and visit while I was there, and so they helped me plan some trips to go with them, and even like wanted to meet my family, and so they're just absolutely great people and great resources too.
If the teachers see that you're not doing well during something, they will be like proactive and they will come to you.
They're very supportive.
Yeah, they're very, very, very supportive.
You have as much time to spend with them as
Yeah.
you need. You can go to the teacher's lounge and just sit. I've gone to the teacher's lounge and sat down with Mike Saitosis for like 2 hours. I mean, just talk. You just, you work things out. They're so willing to spend time with you, as much time as they can.
Yeah. I mean, you feel bad because it's like you feel like you're cutting into their planning time, but they're like more than willing to like, okay, I see you don't get this. What can I do to help you get this? Or, for instance, on Sakubun, I did not do well on Sakubun come midterms. And the teachers came to me and were like, hey, what can we do? Can we set you up with an after-school Sakubun practice? And continue going through with that. So I, once, twice a week, would come in after school and do Sakubun practice. And it had a measured effect on how well I did on the finals.
I think KCP really prepared me because I came back and then started my master's program at Seattle University. And just having that practice of studying for potentially 6 hours around school, it prepared me for a master's program. So I think just knowing that you can sit down and really work really hard at something, but then have amazing games afterwards.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dana. Happy birthday to you. Hey, good.
Say no.
これから頑張りましょう